PIC, on the alienation of federal government properties, transferring responsibility for its activities to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi. The committee established in 2000 to oversee the privatization, sale, and lease of federal government properties was dissolved after the government said it had exceeded its original mandate, leading to multiple litigations across the country. The president also directed the committee's former secretary, B.S. Dosunma, to stop acting on behalf of the dissolved committee and the federal government on all related matters. Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says the expansion of the Nigerian army from 8 to 12 divisions will strengthen its capacity to respond swiftly to insecurity across the country. The president stated this while receiving traditional rulers from Oyo State, led by the Olubadan of Ibadan, Oba Rashidi Ladoja, at the State House, Abuja. Tinubu also assured Nigerians that the proposed state police system would have adequate safeguards to prevent abuse, to support security agencies in tackling criminals operating in forests. He urged Nigerians to remain vigilant and report suspicious persons and activities in their communities. Akwa Ibom residents have been assured of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's continued support through the approval of funds for additional constituency projects across the state. The assurance was given on Thursday by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, during the continuation of the third phase of constituency project commissioning in Etimekpo local government area. The Senate President was represented by his wife, Dr. Mrs. Unaoma Ekaite Godswill Akpabio. Our correspondent, David Isong, has the details.
It was yet another day of commissioning constituency projects for the people of our district.
We are going to say thank you to the Senate President for facilitating this one here.
In Etemekbo local government area, paramount ruler, His Royal Majesty Akuku Amana Mudo, appreciated the Senate President for remembering his people. Following the visit, the Senate President led a delegation to commission the Inyangekbo Road, Urogata Road, Iwukem Udoite Road, Ikorobiobat Road, alongside other rural development projects in Etemekbo. Speaking on behalf of the Senate President, Dr. Mrs. Akpabio expressed appreciation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for approving constituency projects executed by members of the National Assembly.
The President of the country made this project to be possible. Distinguished Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he did not approve the constituency project, this project would not have come here. And because he made it possible, our leader and our father brought this constituency project to this world. All our political stakeholders, Mrs. Enyekere representing all of them, all our critical stakeholders, all of us are going to commission this on behalf of the Senate President. So, together we say, in the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Other stakeholders from Etemekbo also pledged their unwavering support for President Bola Tinubu, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and Governor Moino ahead of the 2027 elections.
Now we are grateful. We lack words. We have nothing to say. We know that our father will win election.
With the commissioning of people-centered projects by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, residents of Etemekbo are hopeful that this project will improve their livelihood. From Etemekbo local government area, David Isong, Adbn News.
House of Representatives has opened an interactive session on the persistent gas seepage in Bile community, Degema local government area of River State, with lawmakers seeking to establish the cause of the incident, assess its environmental, public health and socio-economic impact, and determine whether there were failures in regulatory oversight or emergency response. Adbn's Laraba Mori has more.
Months after the gas seepage was first reported, investigators are still trying to establish its source, and lawmakers are seeking answers as to whether the response by relevant agencies has been adequate.
We expect to receive updates on medical interventions provided to affected residents, relief measures implemented, and ongoing community support initiatives where applicable.
That people's lives could be on the line for this number of months and nothing is being done about it. And you sit here to suggest to us that you don't even know what is the cause or what is responsible for it.
Lawmakers demanded answers over the gas seepage, which has persisted for more than 8 months, raising concerns that the prolonged incident could pose serious health and safety risks to affected communities. They questioned the response by regulatory agencies, while officials maintained that investigations are ongoing to determine the source of the gas and the appropriate response.
On December 16, 2025, brief the Honorable Minister was briefed. The DG briefed the Honorable Minister of Environment, presented background findings, current status, number, no operator yet confirmed liable, regulatory / national implication.
For residents living with the uncertainty, the next hearing could be crucial. Lawmakers are expecting to hear from absent stakeholders while weighing measures, including possible relocations of affected communities. Laraba Mure, Adbn News.
Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Barrister Nyesom Wike, has completed before the end of the year. Speaking with journalists after inspecting the ongoing construction of the extension of Collector Road C01, linking Nile University area in the institution and research district with Lugbe and the arterial road N1 from Wuye district to Ring Road 2. Barrister Wike said the Tinubu administration remained committed to delivering every project it had initiated.
What I saw today, I can tell you comfortably, if we complete that project, I can beat my chest and go home and say, I'm happy. The administration of Bola Tinubu was succeeded in providing the basic infrastructure that has transformed Abuja to a city it's supposed to be.
The minister also disclosed that the cost of completing the abandoned Millennium Toll project in Abuja has soared to between 300 billion naira and 400 billion naira. He said the development makes it financially unviable for the FCT administration within its current budgetary limits.
And I believe that is one project that government should reconsider. Should be a tourist center project. The capital involved is too huge for the FCT to have this 133 budget. We have discussed with the contractor. Remember that project was awarded under passenger regime. As I speak to you, it's not less than 300 to 400 billion naira that the contractor is talking about. And if you look at it, how do we carry such project? It means that every other project in Abuja will have to be abandoned.
He urged residents to remain patient, reiterating that every project initiated by the administration will be completed. Candidates from 14 political parties contesting the August 15, 2026 Osun State governorship election have officially signed a peace accord on Thursday, July 30, 2026, pledging to uphold a violent, free and credible electoral process. The event, organized by the National Peace Committee, NPC, was held in Osogbo, the Oyo State capital. Speaking at the event, Chairman of the National Peace Committee and former Head of State, General Abdul Salami Abubakar, retired, represented by Cardinal John Onaikan, said democracy flourishes when political competition is guided by peace, restraint and respect for the rule of law, urging political actors to conduct the remainder of their campaigns with civility and responsibility.
The National Peace Committee, I am making my special appeal to all the political party members here present to abide by the spirit and the letter of the accord that we will now sign.
Delivering his address, Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amopiton, called on all political parties, candidates and supporters to strictly adhere to the letter and spirit of the agreement. He later, the 15th governorship election or engage in vote buying will face the full weight of the law.
This hotspot location will receive specialized, highly visible security deployments. Security forces have been issued strict operational guidelines to neutralize any form of violence and attempt at ballot disruptions.
Assistant Inspector General of Police Zone 4 Headquarters, Oshowo Akinyele Fasuba, who represented the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, assured of security of lives and properties during and after the poll.
All the people that will be involved will be the one recognized by the Constitution. People should not entertain any fear that maybe all these Amotekun vigilante and all others will be used.
The August 15 election is scheduled to hold across the state's 30 local government areas and the Modakeke area office, covering 332 registration areas and 3,763 polling units, with the certified register contained 2,339,233 eligible voters after the automated biometric identification system exercise.
Our gathering is to endorse peace, but my government and people are facing police sanction, violence, intimidation. War is being waged actively against my people by Osun APC, openly supported by the Osun State Police Command.
In other news, Nigerian Army says it is strengthening the capacity of its engineers to detect and neutralize improved explosive devices or improvised explosive devices to improve troop safety and protect civilians in conflict zones. The Army made this known during a counter-improvised explosive device seminar held in Kaduna as part of activities marking the graduation of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal X2 Course 126. Representing the Commander, Corps of Engineers, Major General Josiah Atta, said continuous training and collaboration with international partners are key to improving operational readiness against emerging security threats.
Improvised explosive device has become one of the greatest security threats confronting the Nigerian Army in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations. The widespread use of this device have complicated military operations and humanitarian activities in conflict-affected areas. Notwithstanding, the Nigerian Army engineer continue to play a vital role in defeating improvised explosive device threats. The Corps conducts routine clearance operations to detect and remove explosive devices before military convoys and civilians use infested roads. The Nigerian Army engineer regularly collaborate with other security agencies.
General Officer commanding 1 Division, Nigerian Army, and Commander Sector 1, Operation Fansanyama, Major General Abubakar Wasi, represented by Brigadier General Anwar Abdullahi, said the seminar provides troops and other security agencies an opportunity to share knowledge and strengthen collaboration in countering IED threats.
The proposed explosive device in our contemporary security environment remain one of the most significant changes we face today in our operations. Therefore, this seminar is not only timely and relevant, but a call to duty for us to continually refine our strategies and enhance our capabilities in countering these persistent threats.
Commander of 41 Engineer Brigade, Brigadier General Sharif Aremu, says the training capacity became critical due to the increasing use of improvised explosive devices in areas of operation.
Course was premised on the urgent need to build capacity and equip Nigerian Army engineer personnel who will be readily available to defeat threats of improvised explosive device within the theater of operation, preparing the force to counter the emerging threats of improvised explosive device in the theater and to promote effective counter-improvised explosive device measures.
Military authorities say the training reflects the Nigerian Army's commitment to continuous professional development, improved operational readiness, and stronger collaboration with security partners in addressing evolving security threats across the country. Meanwhile, Edo State government has graduated nearly 500 forest guards following 2 months of intensive training as part of efforts to strengthen security across the state. The guards are expected to support security agencies in combating kidnapping, banditry, and other crimes by protecting forests and gathering intelligence from their local communities. Adbn's correspondent, Favor Osazoa, reports.
For 2 months, they trained for one mission: to protect Edo's forest and deny criminal elements safe havens. At the passing out parade held at the Nigerian Police Training School, Ogida Barracks in Benin City, 497 newly recruited forest guards completed their training, showcasing tactical drills before government officials and security stakeholders. Speaking at the ceremony, Security Federal Representative urged them to work closely with security agencies by gathering intelligence.
Obedience to lawful authority and commitment to the protection of lives, property, and the Constitution. By this act, you formally accept the sacred responsibility entrusted to you by the Nigerian state.
Of Office, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Roland Otaru, described the initiative as a constitutional responsibility to protect lives.
We give thanks to God. So far, so good. They've gone through the rudiments of what the training entails, and we believe that going back to their respective duty posts in the short while from now.
Administering the oath of office, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Roland Otaru, described the initiative as a constitutional responsibility to protect lives and property, while the Chief of Staff called on residents to support security agencies with timely information, stressing that security is a collective responsibility.
First of all, let me commend the governor of Edo State for his support. The governor gave them all the support for us to get to this level we are. 8 weeks of training. Now our forest can no longer be an abode for marauders. So with this, the forest will be cleaned up, bush cutting will be carried out, and forest will be protected for the farmers to farm. People, the loggers will not have a free day again.
We are again reminded of the vital duties we owe to the state and to the nation in protecting the ungoverned area of our forest within our communities.
With the training now completed, attention shifts from the parade ground to the forest, where these newly recruited guards will face the real task of supporting security agencies in protecting lives and securing communities. In Edo State, Favor Osazua, Adbn News.
Delta State government says it is confident the 2026 Delta Economic Summit will attract investments, drive economic growth, and create more opportunities for residents. Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Charles Aniagu, said the Oborowori administration's investment in infrastructure and accountable governance have positioned the state for increased local and foreign investment. He identified agriculture, the blue economy, hospitality, housing, and creative industry, and information technology as key sectors expected to attract investors.
Enough, that is paying off. A number of them are coming in. There are some other persons from China that are also coming in to take advantage of what we have. And of course, you do know that there are a number of other investors that will also be coming indigenous. We are collaborating with Nasima. At the moment that I speak with you, because a number of persons have trusts in the transparent and accountable leadership of Oborowori, a good number of very notable companies in Nigeria have also supported us. We wanted just one diamond sponsor, but today we are having 5 diamond sponsors. We thought that it was going to be just one good sponsor, but we have about 3 good sponsors.
Mr. Aniagu further disclosed that renowned speakers and industry experts will provide insights into various investment opportunities, with the summit expected to deliver lasting economic benefits for all Deltans.
At the end of the day, we are going to be able to have interactions and expose to them those other opportunities that indeed abound in our state. And to tell you that we're not playing with this, a very notable Nigerian who is more or less our export to the world, in the person of Professor Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, will be the keynote speaker. Patrick Lumumba, the Kenyan who is a Pan-African scholar, will also be on ground to deliver his own address.
The commissioner also dismissed claims by some opposition figures who linked the recent viral video of violence in Efurun, Warri, in which a protocol officer attached to the governor was assaulted, insisting that the incident had no political undertone and was not connected to the APC as a political party.
Directed the security agencies to proceed to investigate both the immediate and the remote cause of that disturbance, with a view to bringing the culprits to book. So we'll leave it at that so that we do not also preempt the outcome of the investigation. But it will not be proper for us to begin to cast aspersion here and there when the outcome of the investigation has not been made public. Otherwise, it will amount to taking a position even when we don't have all the facts. So that's that about the issue of the disturbance.
Adbn's Delta State correspondent Charles is receiving medical treatment and is recovering steadily. Religious leaders in Kaduna State have urged politicians to reject divisive at the pace. The appeal was made during the inauguration of the Kaduna State Indigenous Ministers Association, Kasima, where Northern Christian Association Chairman Reverend Joseph Hayab called on political leaders to avoid inflammatory rhetoric and focus on policies that improve people's lives. The newly inaugurated Kasima president, Archbishop Joseph Yari Jatau, said the association would work with government, traditional rulers and communities to promote peace, security, and good governance across the state. You're watching Adbn News at 7. We will bring you business, foreign, sports, and entertainment stories after the break. You're welcome back. So the Business World Central Bank of Nigeria and the Emerging Markets Forum brought together some of the world's top economic voices this week as WTO Director General Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso warned the global trading order is under its greatest strain in 80 years. Addressing the 7th Africa Emerging Economic Forum in Abuja, both insisted the disruption is opening new doors for Africa. Our business correspondent, Awesome Raphael, has details.
Okonjo-Iweala said shifting economic power, rising inequality, and geopolitical rivalry are testing system built after World War II, but rejected any talk of globalization collapsing.
What we are seeing is not the end of globalization, but its transformation from cooperative to competitive interdependence. States compete vigorously, but within a global economic system they cannot afford to abandon.
Cardoso said Nigeria's own experience, from unifying the exchange rate to tightening monetary policy, shows how emerging economies can turn instability into resilience. He urged Africa now has a chance to stop reacting to global rules and start helping write them.
As established rules are rewritten, emerging markets have an opportunity to move from being rule takers to becoming rule setters.
In a later exchange, the two went head-to-head on the state of global trading system and what it means for Nigeria and Africa, from monetary reform to domestic resource mobilization, with a shared warning the continent can no longer rely on old flows of foreign aid and investment.
We must concentrate on generating our own. We must.
I think there's a unique opportunity for the continent to trade more with itself. Charity begins at home.
On a panel themed Deepening Economic Integration Through Cross-Border Payments, FinTech Infrastructure and Policy Coordination, experts warn that without secure connected payment system, the African Continental Free Trade Area risks remaining just a document.
In the area of aligning our payment system in line with that of ECOWAS and AFTA, there are certain obligations we need to meet.
The African Union will then have to come in where there are internal corporations, where there are internal legal.
We have all established the fact that Africa does not have a demand problem. We also don't have a payments problem because we know Central Bank is doing a great job with that. We have payment system departments and several other departments weighing in. What we need to face is the reality that we are fragmented across Africa. And we must always remember that Africa is the new frontier.
Their submission, agreements alone won't move Africa's trade needle. It will take connected payments rails, harmonized regulation, and stronger domestic institutions to turn continental free trade from policy into practice. Awful. Adbn News.
Marketing professionals and brand executives have stressed the need for innovation, collaboration, and strategic thinking to keep businesses competitive in today's evolving marketplace. They made the call at the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, Uyo Chapter's Marketing Morning Breakfast held in Uyo. Adbn's correspondent Emmanuel Silas reports.
Brand managers, business executives, and industry stakeholders at Persian Event Hall in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State for the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, Uyo Chapter's Marketing Morning Breakfast. The event provided a platform for participants to exchange ideas. Chairman of the Uyo Chapter, Mrs. Anieka Nesienete, who is also the Group Manager, Marketing and Communications at Ibom A, described the institute as a statutory body established to regulate the marketing profession in Nigeria.
So the law empowers the institute to determine who qualifies to practice marketing professionally in Nigeria, meaning that you're not officially a member of this institute at all. Okay, set and review standards of knowledge, competence, and ethics for marketers. Conduct professional examination and certify qualified professionals. Register marketers and regulate the profession. Promote research, education and continuous professional development, and of course, enforce a code of professional conduct and discipline members where necessary.
Some participants described the initiative as timely, noting that the interactive sessions exposed them to new ideas, expanded their professional networks, and offered practical solutions to challenges facing business in an increasingly competitive market.
You understand, so we're talking real estate right now in the States. We're talking Aqua GIS. That is a platform where we all can adopt, get up here at the land, an example. It's a democratized platform that we are engaging for real estate, and that is the conversation that I'm having as I lead here.
Whether you're doing private business, or you're working in the public sector, or you're doing consultation, or something particular, whatever it is, to feel that they're not in the public space. So if I go to do our jobs well, which I hope by the grace of God, that this particular
synergy in terms of town, now I want to commend you for what you've done for Spark. There's a synergy already existing between the town and now. And the next synergy, we already have an existing synergy as the National Institute of Marketing between ACON, NIPR, and the National Institute of Marketing.
The marketing morning breakfast fosters unity, progress, and professionalism among practitioners in Nigeria. Emmanuel Silas, Adbn News.
In other reports, Oyo State Police Command has dismantled a syndicate allegedly involved in the diversion and unlawful conversion of goods in transit, arresting 2 suspects and recovering goods valued at 32 million naira. The operation, carried out by operatives of the Command Monitoring Unit, Oyo Operational Base, followed credible intelligence that led officers to the syndicate's hideout in the Irekpo area of Oyo town. The suspects were arrested during a raid, recovering a truck loaded with 570 bags of guinea corn, allegedly diverted while being transported from Kaduna State.
I carry emblem, papers, we cover in truck so that people will not disturb him. I gave him. Then I now told him to go and start his truck. Let's go to the loading company. To my great surprise, we went there and I went there and parked him that very day. We didn't load him because I was trying to get the full details of who gave me, who is that person that sent him to me. I couldn't get him. So my boss idea, before I know, they have already loaded him. So after they have already loaded him, I now say, okay, if that been the case, let them snap the 2 of them. Then snap them with the truck. After they snap them with the truck, they get their photocopy, their way bill, and their driving license. And the name he is giving me, Abraham, something Oni, somebody, is not the name he's measuring here, ma.
The operation, conducted in the Irekpo area of Oyo town, led to the arrest of 2 suspects identified as Olawale Karim, male, 40 years, and Ogumbi Monday, male, 46 years old. Edo State Task Force has arrested 2 suspected illegal revenue collectors at the Welu Spare Parts Market in Ego local government area, following complaints from traders and customers over alleged extortion. The suspects were accused of issuing unauthorized tickets and demanding payments from people carrying out legitimate business activities, despite the state government's ban on illegal revenue collection. Speaking after the operation, State Officer of the Edo State Task Force said the arrests were made in response to credible reports from the market.
The Edo State Task Force Commander will always say, if you see something, say something. So I believe on that his principle, so many persons have started to believe in him, that whenever they see any information, no matter how thin or little it is, they will bring it to his attention. The ban on ticketing by the Edo State government remain intact. And the Edo State Task Force will go all the way to enforce this ban. So if there's anybody still out there engaging in illegal collection of revenue out there, Edo State Task Force will come for you.
The suspect
less job, so I have nothing doing. I was fishing for work to do. Before I met this man, he told me that there's a work, at the ticket work, at the package that the council give us. Every day I always complain to this my boss, say, bro, are you sure this work is genuine? Because I don't need anything problem. He says it's genuine.
I asked my boss convinced me, with all conviction, that it's legal. Kisling him. Kisling him. We pay to him.
Edo State Task Force said investigations are ongoing to uncover everyone connected to the alleged illegal operation as it intensifies efforts to eliminate unauthorized revenue collection and safeguard lawful commercial activities across the state. Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is intensifying efforts to achieve gender parity in political leadership by 2035, amid concerns that women remain significantly underrepresented in decision-making institutions across the region. At the West Africa Women's Political Leadership Forum in Abuja, regional leaders, development partners, and policymakers outlined a roadmap aimed at translating commitments into concrete reforms. Adbn's Amma Marcus reports. That report in subsequent bulletins. Team Nigeria's medal haul at the 2026 Commonwealth Games received another major boost on Thursday as Chukwuebuka Enekwechi produced a championship winning throw of 21.07 meters to claim gold in the men's shot put. The Nigerian edged out Tom Walsh, who settled for silver with 21.03 meters in the field event contest of the Games. Scott Lincoln of England claimed bronze with a throw of 20.99 meters. Meanwhile, Nigeria's sprint hurdles queen Toby Amusan once again demonstrated her resilience by battling through injury to win bronze in the women's 100 meters hurdles. The 29-year-old world record holder clocked 12.60 seconds to secure her third consecutive Commonwealth Games podium finish, despite carrying a knee injury sustained during Team Nigeria's training camp in Adbn. Host Morocco women's national football team strengthened their grip on Group A of the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Algeria in a tense Maghreb derby on Thursday night. Sanam Sodi scored the decisive goal in the 84th minute, finally breaking down a disciplined Algerian defense to hand the Atlas Lionesses all 3 points. The victory takes Morocco to 6 points from their opening 2 matches, leaving the hosts well placed to secure a place in the quarterfinals. In the other Group A fixture, Senabo Mbengwe scored the only goal of the game as Senegal recorded a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Kenya. The result significantly boosts Senegal's hopes of progressing to the knockout stage. You're welcome back. Minister of Women Affairs Iman Suleiman Ibrahim has urged Miss Nigeria Tamunosoye Karibi George to flag Nigeria's flag high at the Miss World pageant coming up in Vietnam August 9th. The minister, who spoke while presenting Miss Nigeria formally to the media at a World Press Conference in Abuja, assured her of the ministry's support throughout the pageant. Well, that's it on ADBN TV News this morning. Remember to watch us live on DSTV channel 258, on StarTimes channel 140, Avo TV app, Limex World TV app, and Niger TV app. For more stories, visit our website at www.adbntv.com. You can also watch us live from every part of the world by logging on to www.adbntv.com/live. I am Chijoke Okafo. Thank you so much for watching. Good morning.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns, and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Did you know vote buying and vote selling is a criminal offense? Under Nigerian law, the punishments for vote buying and selling includes a fine of 5 million naira, a 2-year jail term ahead of the upcoming general elections. The National Assembly significantly stiffened these penalties. Under the current legal framework, Section 22 of the new Electoral Act 2026, the fine was escalated from previous limits, which capped punishment at 500,000 naira and 12 months in prison, to not less than 5 million naira and a jail term of not less than 2 years. Additionally, convicted offenders face a mandatory 10-year ban from contesting any election in Nigeria. The stiffened penalties apply explicitly to anyone who unlawfully possesses a voter's card, sells or attempts to sell a voter's card, buys or offers to buy a vote, or sells and offers to sell a vote. All voters are advised against selling their votes. If votes don't count, who would try to buy them? Stay updated on our latest series of voter education on the Adbn Enlightenment Campaign.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on Adbn TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on Adbn TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Did you know the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) will begin the distribution of permanent voter cards across Osun State from Wednesday, the 22nd of July 2026, ahead of the Osun State governorship election on Saturday, the 15th of August 2026. According to the Osun State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Babalola, the exercise is for newly registered voters, citizens who apply for a transfer of their voter registration, those who requested replacement of lost or damaged PVCs, as well as voters who are yet to collect their cards from previous registration exercises. PVC distribution will begin at the registration area centers from Wednesday, the 22nd of July, before moving to INEC local government area offices from Wednesday, the 29th of July to Friday, the 7th of August, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. daily, including weekends. Remember, PVC collection is strictly personal. No one can collect your card on your behalf, and without your PVC, you cannot be accredited or vote on election day. As Osun prepares to elect its next governor and deputy governor, visit your designated PVC collection center before the deadline. Collect your permanent voter cards and take your place in deciding the future of Osun on Saturday, the 15th of August, 2026. Get your PVC. Protect your vote.
Stay updated on our latest series of voter education on the Adbn Enlightenment Campaign.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, health. Nation forward, because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support us. Gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. Children, for our communities.
Additionally, convicted offenders face a mandatory 10-year ban from contesting any election in Nigeria. The stifling penalties apply explicitly to anyone who unlawfully possesses a voter's card, sells or attempts to sell a voter's card, buys or offers to buy a vote, or sells and offers to sell a vote. All voters are advised against selling their votes. If votes don't count, who would try to buy them? Stay updated on our latest series of voter education on the ADBN Enlightenment Campaign.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to ADBN Television's flagship program, Morning Express. It's another day to keep you abreast with several issues in the news, and most crucial of them all is the comments coming in from the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, who has defended the federal government's spending of money saved up following the removal of fuel subsidy. Speaking at the 7th Emerging Markets Forum in Abuja, Mr. Oyedele said that the government had used the subsidy savings to cushion the increments in salaries with the 70,000 naira minimum wage, payments of student loan scheme, and other crucial economic priorities. However, the Nigerian Labour Congress has refuted this claim, saying it is lacking in evidence. On that note, welcome to our program. My name is Beto Bryan. I won't be doing this alone. I'm in the company of my colleague, Chijoke Okafo. Good morning to you, Chijoke.
Good morning, Bito. Thank you so much for having me here. Well, good morning to you, our viewer out there. It's Morning Express. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll head straight to the front pages to get insight into the story that Beto Bryan had given us a background to and many more. Stay with us.
Well, thanks for staying with us. Just note that all the headlines to be read out are read according to the editorial guidelines of each newspaper house and are not in any way a position of ADBN Television as it concerns the issues in the news. So in your reactions, take out time to do your due diligence. Now, starting with our first newspaper on the lineup, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has maintained a no ransom payment stance in Nigeria's onslaught against terrorism. This is as headlined on the First Daily, where you'd find the kicker beneath the masthead this morning: no ransom for terrorists. Tinubu reaffirms hardline stance against kidnappers, says state police would have safeguards against abuse, vows to criminals. Beneath that, you'd find a picture of prominence with the president upon visitation from key prominent figures at the State House. On the sidebar, FCCPC warns against 36 different power regulations. NAFDAC alerts Nigerians after Niger bounds Blumex rice. INEC, military must play a limited role in 2027 elections. Now, there are also a few more headlines besides and beneath the masthead. Besides the masthead, First Daily Publisher thanks stakeholders for successful security dialogue. Whilst beneath the masthead, Otedola raises first holdco stakes to 25.88% in 222 billion naira deal. Residents risk lives scooping fuel from leaking tanker in Delta State. Police arrest barber over alleged ritual use of customers' hair. NAFDAC seeks 5,000 more staff to strengthen regulations. Those are the headline stories on the First Daily.
Moving away from the First Daily, let's speak of the Nigerian Tribune, which will be our next stop. A similar headline story: why we refuse to negotiate with Orire terrorists, President Tinubu reveals. The story is on news page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Some strap lines, one particular strap line here captures comments of the president verbatim, and he says, they committed murder and we were ready to finish with their families. Nobody is borrowing money to pay salaries now. Pensioners are receiving their pay, and they, governors, should do more too. Instead of building flyovers where there is no numeric traffic, build roads and arteries network to really enhance the quality of life and accessibility of security agencies to penetrate these areas. Now, right above the headline story on the masthead, anxiety as INEC set to publish particulars of presidential National Assembly candidates tomorrow. 746 million euros loan. Federal government begins payment of counterpart funding for Apapa Tinkan Ports. Targets 48-month completion date. Oyo government sets up judicial commission to probe Orire students' abduction. And on the rider, Osun 2026, political parties seal accord for peaceful poll. Adeleke alleges police bias, wants peace committee to intervene. Queries why arrested ACORD members are detained in Abuja, Nasarawa. Osun APC wants arrested political thugs prosecuted without exception. Oni sues for peace, says power belongs to the people. Let the ballot box alone decide, INEC tells politicians. Police release Osun SSG. On the sidebar to the left carries a story. Only 1,200 medical doctors serving 9 million residents in Ogun State. NMA raises the alarm. Zakiam killing. LPDC suspends Gazema over federal government's $8 billion settlement. Allegations are unfounded, he says. And lastly, in health, a study has revealed that Smart Ring uses sweat to measure glucose. These are the stories on the Nigerian Tribune.
Moving away from the Nigerian Tribune this morning, you'd find more headline stories in our next newspaper, The Daily Times, where international airline buddies are urging countries to bear the costs of their national border security. Leading headlines on The Daily Times, international airline buddies charge governments to bear national border security costs, warns against passing it to passengers. Beneath that, you would find the picture of prominence showing the CBN governor, flanked by the finance minister and another prominent individual at the Servant Emerging Markets Forum as hosted by the CBN in Abuja. Other headline stories gracing the front page of the Daily Times, you'd find above the masthead this morning, two more headlines above the masthead on the Daily Times. Nigeria's $1 trillion economy depends on effective transport logistics is one of those headline stories, besides which you'd find the next headline story. Beg your pardon, as it reads, Southeast security critical to Nigeria's unity economic growth, says the federal government. Southeast insecurity critical to Nigeria's economic growth, says the federal government. Those are the headline stories on the front page of the Daily Times.
Let's move over to the Daily Monitor this morning. On the Daily Monitor newspaper, on insecurity, federal government would negotiate with criminals, says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he adds that Nigeria will intensify intelligence-driven operations to defeat terrorism, banditry, other security threats. And let's work our way up to a 2027 story right above the masthead. Military vows commitment to neutrality in the 2027 elections. Underneath that, Orire saga. Makinde constitutes judicial panel to probe children, teachers' abduction. World Trafficking Day. NAPTIP warns job seekers to verify employment offers. FCCPC engages NERC states electricity regulators on consumer protection cooperation. MAN seeks tax harmonization, better infrastructure to boost manufacturing. And of course, a picture of prominence on the front page of the Daily Monitor captures former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Abia State Governor Dr. Alex Oti, and other eminent Nigerians at the Aguiyi-Ironsi Cenotaph in Umuahia to mark the 60th anniversary of his passing on Thursday. And on the rider, resident doctors threaten indefinite strike from August 10th, say strike necessary due to federal government's inability to resolve critical issues affecting resident doctors. These are the stories on the Daily Monitor.
With that, we move on to the Punch newspaper, where you'd find the prominent headline story as it reads: Oyo abductions, why we tracked, arrested kidnappers' families, says President Tinubu. Annotations beneath that read: abductors wanted us to release their detained members, pay ransom, President says. We are prepared to finish with terrorist families. Militants from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, fueling Nigeria's insecurity, President Bola Tinubu insists. Whilst above the masthead, Army probes leaked DSS memo warning of Adama Borno attacks. Osun 2026, Adeleke Oyebamiji signed peace pact as INEC warns troublemakers. And now to the rider, where you'd find the picture of prominence with the caption: Decade of gas, FG launches grassroots LPG drive in Bayelsa. The sidebar reads: fuel subsidy savings report coming soon, says Taiwo Oyedele. Drug trafficking in Africa jumps 6-folds in 2 years, says Africom. Those are the headline stories on The Punch.
Away from the Punch newspaper, let's quickly skip over to the Vanguard newspaper. The federal government and the Nigerian Labour Congress, we hear, is clashing over use of fuel subsidy removal savings. Let's take a look at the headline story. FG, Labour clash over use of fuel subsidy removal savings. Big story on news page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Two strap lines here: savings used to service increased workers' salaries, others, Oyedele claims. You are economical with truth, Labour tells federal government. There's finance minister to produce evidence on salary claim. Above the masthead, Otedola acquires additional 222 billion naira first holdco shares, now controls 26%. Orire, why we refused to negotiate with terrorists, Tinubu reveals. Makinde sets a probe panel. Nigeria, other African countries face 6-fold security threats in 2 years, U.S. Africom has stated. And looking at some bottom stories, menace of open defecation, Nigeria's silent sanitation emergency. Nigeria mourns ex-finance minister Abubakar Alhaji. Landing on Delta Road, aircraft crew still in DSS detention, says Kiyamo. Unmet demands, resident doctors begin strike August 10th. And Governor Adeleke says, gearing up to the Osun elections, we won't bow to intimidation. These are the stories featured on the Vanguard.
Moving away from the Vanguard newspaper this morning, you'd find more explanations as given by Nigeria's Finance Minister Taiwo Oyedele on the use of the fuel subsidy savings, as captured on the Nation newspaper. On the Nation this morning, how federal government deploying fuel subsidy savings by Oyedele. How federal government deploying fuel subsidy savings by Oyedele. Beneath that, annotations read: funds used for debt servicing, minimum wage, students' loan, others. Subsidy on petrol, forex accounted for 5% of GDP. Tinubu links Nigeria's insecurity to Sahel crisis. Shatima leads mourners at Alhaji Alaji's burial. Otedola's first holdco, largest shareholder, with 25.9% stake. Stop parading yourself as federal government officials, Tinubu tells ex-PIC secretary members. FCCPC seeks title control to protect electricity consumers. Tinubu Obasanjo, Aguiyi-Ironsi, a patriot. And lastly, Accord, APC, ADC, SDP signed pact to guarantee violence-free Osun polls. Those are the headline stories on the front page of The Nation.
Well, let's see what the Disclosure News is disclosing this morning. On the Disclosure News, federal government says how we spent for subsidy foreign exchange savings. Adds the savings spent on debt servicing, student loan, new minimum wage, and others. Promises to make details of income expenditure public. Right beneath the major headline story, 25 years after establishment, Tinubu disbands Presidential Implementation Committee, directs PIC Secretary to stop representing federal government, AGF to oversee committee affairs. And three rider stories. Atiku challenges federal government to disclose identity of 39 SUVs purchased for 15.13 billion naira. Doctors threaten nationwide indefinite strike over unpaid arrears, give August 10th deadline. LPDC suspends Gazema Ulegede from legal practice for 3 and 2 years, respectively. And working our way up to some more stories, Oshun Guba, Cardinal Onyeka, INEC chairman, others sued for peace, rather, as 14 political parties candidates signed peace accord. Orire kidnap. Tinubu kidnapped victims in Kwara State. Now, these are the stories featured on the Disclosure News.
Away from the Disclosure newspaper, more momentums on the preparations for elections by INEC have been underscored in terms of its militarization, with INEC rejecting the deployment of the military during routine elections. This is headlined on our next newspaper, The Blueprint. INEC rejects deployment of military during routine elections, says police remains lead security, military in exceptional cases. Political parties sign peace pact ahead of August 15 Oshun Guba. RMAFC, NEMA, CAC bosses merit Blueprint Award for standing out, says Sadisu Umar. Senate probes oil sector audit, summons IOC's others. You'd find the picture of prominence on the Blueprint this morning, showing the WTO chief as flanked by the CBN governor, Mr. Oluyemi Cardoso, and the founding director / chief executive, Emerging Markets Forum, Mr. Harinde Kololi, at the 7th African Emerging Markets Forum held at the CBN's head office, Abuja. Beneath that, no negotiation with terrorist kidnappers, says Tinubu. Unveils state police plan, promises safeguards against abuse. Recruitment will be based on merits, says Barrow. Still on the front page of the Blueprint this morning, you'd find a number of rider stories. NEDC to acquire 8 MRI scanners, completes 18 mega schools across Northeast. Tinubu dissolves PIC, warns Dutsama to stop parading as secretary. Ex-Finance Minister Alhaji Alaji dies at 88. Shatima, Northern governors mourn. Tinubu's infrastructure, human capital investments will drive Nigeria towards $1 trillion economy, says Yilwata. Those are the headline stories on the Blueprint.
Let's move on to the New Telegraph newspaper. On front page this morning, resident doctors have issued a warning strike to the federal government. Resident doctors issue August 10th strike notice over unpaid arrears. Welfare concerns is the headliner on the New Telegraph newspaper. And this is elaborated in news pages 2, 5, and 6 of the paper. Condemn harassment, violent attacks on healthcare workers. Demand immediate resolution of lingering crisis at Lut. Only 1,200 medical doctors serving 9 million Ogun residents. NMA cries out. NUC approves Jigawa Medical Varsity to boost Nigeria's doctor. Masted, CBN says net forex flows up 33.8% to $20.3 billion in first quarter of 2026. First Holdco or Tedola sustains dominance, raises stake to 25.9%. And beneath the masthead, Tinubu, Obasanjo, Oti call for national unity as Abia honors Aguiyi Ironsi. On insecurity, federal government Southeast draw action plan at Umuahia Security Summit. And Wike says we are appealing to Tinubu over 400 billion naira Millennium Tower project. There is global shift towards grassroots populism. Amakri says regional antidote to totalitarianism. NNPC Limited to acquire 10% stake in Seplat JV. First half, Seplat grows revenue to $1.82 billion. Let's see some stories on the New Telegraph newspaper. Tinubu dissolves Presidential Committee on Federal Properties. U.S. launches heavy strikes on Iran after attempted attack on American troops. Now, of course, picture of prominence here captures Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Olaimi Cardoso, Director General, World Trade Organization, WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and Founding Director, Chief Executive, Emerging Markets Forum, Mr. Harinder Kohli, at the 7th Africa Emerging Markets Forum held at the CBN head office in Abuja. Now, on the rider, Osun 2026, INEC deploys undercover operatives to tackle vote buying. Identifies flashpoints to use 4,427 beavers for poll. Oyebamiji absent as candidates signed peace accord. Oni Commission call for violence-free poll. Adeleke alleges police bias, seeks peace committee's intervention on SSG's arrest. Terrorists threaten to marry beautiful women among 176 Woro captives, kill others. Orire abduction, we refuse to pay ransom, negotiate with bandits, Tinubu says. Makinde constitutes Judicial Commission on Oyo abductions. And lastly, scientists link coffee compounds to cellular protection. These are the stories featured on the New Telegraph.
Moving on to our next newspaper, the Guardian newspaper leads with the story saying that 20 million Nigerians are at a risk of liver damage owing to a rising cost in hepatitis care. The headline as it reads, high cost of hepatitis care, stressed facilities expose 20 million to liver damage. Beneath that, you'd find contract fraud, most prevalent corruption in public sector, says the EFCC boss. Whilst above the lead headline, Senate expands oil sector probe to agencies, firms over Naiti's audit findings. Oyedele explains how Nigeria's subsidy FX removal savings spent. Uriwa accuses Reps panel of prejudice in PFIC probe. Beneath that, let's take a look at some of the rider stories. Fresh claims, counterclaims overshadow Osun Peace Accord ahead of polls. FGN's dirty fuel says no petrol above 50 ppm in Nigeria. I'll take that again. FGN's dirty fuel says no petrol above 50 parts per million in Nigeria. FG adopts households mapping to tackle 15 million out-of-school children. Those are the headline stories on The Guardian.
In keeping with more news reports, and as we look to wind up on this segment of newspaper headline stories and review, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper with the headline story, #End Bad Governance Protest. Victims' families await compensation 2 years after. And this is found on news pages 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's start off or continue with some stories right above the headline. Stop building flyovers, Tinubu tells governors. 2027, INEC rejects routine deployment of soldiers during elections. Otedola raises stake at first holdco to 25.87%. Now, picture of prominence here captures the life and times of Alhaji Abubakar Alhaji, who was born in 1932 and died in 2026. Former Finance Minister of the Federation. How Colonel Ude was killed in Abuja. Federal government sets over 2,000 illicit weapons ablaze. Newlywed sentenced to death for killing husband. Lastly, 9 die in Abuja Lokoja road crash. These are the stories prominently featured on the Daily Trust.
Away from the Daily Trust, our concluding newspaper on the lineup this morning is the Daily Independent. Let's take a look at its front page. Cotton textile revival may boost job surge, FX stability. Cotton textile revival may boost job surge, FX stability. Whilst above the masthead, military deployment in elections should not be routine, the INEC chairman insists. Or shouldn't people would be intimidated ahead of Google polls, says Governor Adeleke. And now to the rider on the front page of the Daily Independent, a few more stories of interest. Nigeria laying foundation for $1 trillion economy, says the federal government. Resident doctors threaten nationwide strike over unpaid salaries, welfare. NIHSA warns of severe flood threats in 27 states. LPDC suspend Gadzama for 3 years over Zakibiam claim. On the rider, why we zeroed out ransom in Orire kidnap rescue by Tinubu. Olubadan urges Tinubu to secure forests to prevent bandits regrouping. And lastly in red, Tinubu dissolves presidential property sales panel. Those are the headline stories on the page of the Daily Independent.
Well, these are the many stories that will inform and guide our line of discussion here on the program. We'll take a break. When we return, we hope to have our first guest of the day, Comrade Shegun Ayola, join us for in-depth analysis on the show. Stay tuned.
Congratulations on the Orire Oyo State's rescue that succeeded. I think we succeeded with your support, prayers, and I agree with you that we should commend the men and women of the armed forces for their excellent performance. On behalf of them, I accept your message, and I will forward this same thing and this same message on. As we emphasize the question of security, that each event teaches us new methods, open our eyes, challenge us to examine and re-examine our architecture, our strategy, our map and operations. And you will have seen we've given a geographical and numerical answer to the challenges. We refuse to pay ransom. We have the geography of the forest. We know what it is. And in answer to it, you've seen that from 8 divisions, now we are now moving to 12 divisions to shorten the response time to give, that response time the teeth that is needed for us to defeat terrorism and banditry. It is very necessary, and we are doing so. We have equally embarked upon what was missing. Several decades of fears and uncertainty about what to do about security at the local level. will be corrected. There will be state police. And that state police, we have a guardrail from abuses. We will protect it from abuses. And you traditional rulers too will have role to play more well, thank you for mentioning the question of the forest. We are equally enhancing the capacity and capability of the forest guards. They are not to chase antelopes and animals. We are going to have them chase the criminals and deal with them in the various forests. It is very important to let you know that the
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu there speaking, addressing the rescue efforts of security agencies. Is particularly tailored around the success record of state governors in legacy projects. Now, joining us on the program this morning as we begin a review of prominent items in the news this morning is Comrade Segun Ayola, who joins us virtually. Comrade, good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's good to be here this morning.
Always a pleasure.
All right, Comrade, let's get straight to the discussion this morning. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has firmly reaffirmed how his administration refused to pay ransom to the abductors of the Orire victims who have now been released. And he has also put his foot down and stated that on no account will his administration pay ransom to any terrorist or bandits. Let me get your reaction to this. You sort of lose faith in the fact that government institutions and even the federal government and the state government are paying ransom to bandits. But with the president's words, is this some sort of reassurance in line with ensuring that we eradicate terrorism and banditry in Nigeria?
Well, thank you so very much for the opportunity to be here this morning. Terrorism is a network thing, and the president has tried to make it known to us why everyone everywhere should be secured. Orire local government kidnapped, for example, as a case study, where he is speaking at this time. Nobody expected that a place like Orire local government would attract any attention when it comes to kidnapping, because these are areas that I know they are predominantly farmers and schools, you know. So it's not a commercial hub, and there is no serious politics. That is one. So if it can happen to a local government, it means it can happen to any part of this country. It can happen to anybody, any part of this country. Yes, whether he paid ransom or not, that is not where Nigerians want to really dwell much or pay much attention. The responsibility of any government is to see that every citizen is protected. Everyone, irrespective of where the individual is living, whether in Orire local government, whether in Otikpo, whether in Agatu, anywhere, should be seen to be protected while doing his or her legitimate work. When ransom is paid, there is a sign of weakness that by the government of the day. Of course, if it was paid, the government will not come out to tell us that it was actually paid. That we must all understand. But the most important thing is that these people have been rescued. But what we are now calling the federal government to do is that after rescuing these kidnapped victims, is it a political score? Is it something we should clap hands for? Is this something that we all must say the government has tried? Of course, they should never have been kidnapped in the first instance. And if they have been kidnapped, why did it take so long to rescue them? I don't think is good enough. Good because they have been released, not good enough because it took them so long to do it. The president has told us that they have the map of everywhere. They have the map of everywhere. And why should it take more than 48 hours to use the map you claim you have? And if the securities are not doing well, then he must think about it. He must show maybe a change of pattern, or of course, a reshufflement in architect.
Comrade, if I must come in at this point, I would like to remind you the circumstances surrounding the Oriri attack and the route that the security agencies took before they were successful in their rescue efforts. Remember, we had minors involved in this who might have been used as human shield. But for swift intelligence that made the security agencies go after the families of the abductors, that was where they had a level playing field. But non-regardless, not to dismiss your calls, because it's almost similar to that of the Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, who demanded a United Nations probe into the incidents, having received safely the rescued victims. These calls have been largely condemned by the Nigerian Senate and the federal government as well. You talked about politicizing the issue. So moving away from this, it's on the recommendations, one of which is the recruitment of forest guards. You heard the president there jokingly saying the forest guards are not supposed to chase antelopes and other bush animals. My concern and my question to you is on how equipped and well-trained they are, because mind you, we're now hearing words that this terrorism is as a result of the crisis in Sahel. The president is saying militants from Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are the ones feeling the insecurity in Nigeria. And if that's the case, do you think that forest guards alone would be a better way of preventing a recurrence of such abductions?
Yeah, having said that, the issue of weapons and weaponry, how have you been able to equip the forest guards? And how many of them? What is the coverage? And how much can they do? Are they working in conjunction with the military, the defense officials to curb this terrorism and kidnapping, as we have seen in the past? So if there is a migration from another part of the world, another part of the country into Nigeria that is fueling this terrorism, how were you able to get this information? And what have you done to nap it? What have you done to curb all of this? Good enough, yes, you are telling us about what had fueled the terrorism, but you should also tell Nigerians what you have done to cope, to arrest, and of course, to deal with the issues decisively. You know, the government is used to telling the people what is happening, even though they are prepared to work. Some of the time, they don't even do anything. Take, for example, what is happening in Benue. Killings have been ongoing in Benue. Today, tomorrow, you will be hearing news. We have heard almost every day about what is happening in Otukpo local government, around Ugboju, Ipom, and the rest of the areas there. They are under attack on daily basis. Men and women, children are being killed in their numbers. So it doesn't mean that the military is not aware. Does it mean the officials of the government of defense, the police, the DSS are not aware? What have they done? Or is it that they shifted their, their assignment from there to another place, or to just to come to the media houses and tell Nigerians the causes of the terrorism in Nigeria? And of course, they are not negotiating with anybody. No ransom was paid. As we speak, Nigerians are being killed on daily basis. And we are still talking about the past. Are still talking about the rescue. Are still talking about whether you negotiated or not. Are still talking about whether there was a ransom or not. Are still talking about whether somebody was killed, or talking about the mapping of the place, or having to be very, to be sure
These are
that those
very
children
valid.
So these are some of the signs of Nigerians. It's good enough you have rescued, but the most important thing is, are all of us safe now?
Comrade Shegun, while your points are very valid, let's also take a look at the porosity of our borders. While you have stated that the armed forces and other security agencies of government like the DSS and perhaps the Office of the NIA and all are quite aware of what is going on security-wise in certain areas of the country, but also the most important part of all of this discussion is the infiltration of these terrorists from neighboring countries that also have a very large share of terrorist activities. How do we ensure that we safeguard these borders? And of course, that is why the Edo State government had graduated yesterday now nearly 500 forest guards who are supposed to ensure that they don't just man the forest in the south west, or even in the south or the southeast, but they to also ensure that our borders are well secured and well protected. This is the perspective I was thinking we would drift this conversation towards. But from your own standpoint, how important is securing our borders, especially in this fight against terrorism?
Yes, in securing a state like Nigeria, let's take, for example, the southern part of Nigeria, the southwest, the southeast, the south-south. Our borders, some part of the south-south, they have borders with water. Southeast, they have borders with other parts. Southwest have borders with other African neighboring countries, and so on. And if there is an infiltration, if there is a movement, do we have people of movement who are in charge of movement from other parts of the country to Nigeria? For example, the immigration. What have they done? Do they have, exit routes or a place where they know that some of these people are coming through attack over briefly? Have they been some of the things that the issue of
Hello, comrade.
Process of our
Comrade Shegun, I believe your connection there is slightly shaky, or you might have muted yourself. Could you kindly check on your end? While we wait for that to happen, let's see if we can have the Edo State report on the graduation of about 500 forest guards deployed in just a moment to also get insight into this story and other linkages surrounding it.
Now, whilst that report is being put together before it greets the screen, permit me to add, because he talked about the president having the geographical locations of each forest and the efforts on ground.
Yes.
So from the last report, Nigeria has over 1,129 forests. So far, so good. These forests are across different geographical regions of the country.
Yes.
You've mentioned Edo before. Prior to now, I think it was in Oyo as well,
yes,
that the approval after these abductions in May 26 were made for 1,000 forest guards.
Yes.
There's also Niger State as well, 1,000 forest guards as well. And there are a lot of challenges with being able to train these recruitments in time to be able to be incorporated into the security architecture. Mind you, it's now cross-border patrols. Beyond forest guards, there's the role of the military as well. So it's interesting as we take a look at the graduation ceremony in Edo.
Certainly. Let's take a look when we'll come back to the discussion.
For 2 months, they trained for one mission: to protect Edo's forest and deny criminal elements safe havens. At the passing out parade held at the Nigerian Police Training School, Ogida Barracks in Benin City, 497 newly recruited forest guards completed their training, showcasing tactical drills before government officials and security stakeholders. Speaking at the ceremony, Security Federal Representative urged them to work closely with security agencies by gathering intelligence.
Obedience to lawful authority and commitment to the protection of lives, property, and the Constitution. By this act, you formally accept the sacred responsibility entrusted to you by the Nigerian state.
Of Office, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Roland Otaru, described the initiative as a constitutional responsibility to protect lives.
We give thanks to God. So far, so good. They've gone through the rudiments of what the training entails, and we believe that going back to their respective duty posts in the short while from now.
Administering the oath of office, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Roland Otaru, described the initiative as a constitutional responsibility to protect lives and property, while the Chief of Staff called on residents to support security agencies with timely information, stressing that security is a collective responsibility.
First of all, let me commend the governor of Edo State for his support. The governor gave them all the support for us to get to this level we are. 8 weeks of training. Now our forest can no longer be an abode for marauders. So with this, the forest will be cleaned up, bush combing will be carried out, and forest will be protected for the farmers to farm. People, the loggers will not have a free day again.
We are again reminded of the vital duties we owe to the state and to the nation in protecting the ungoverned area of our forests within our communities.
With the training.
Well, that's the report coming in from Edo State. But mind you, beyond the land border patrol, there's also the air component. The other angle to this discussion is what international airline bodies are saying. They are charging governments to bear the cost of national security as against passing it down to passengers. Because you've seen the efforts of, take for instance, the South and Southeast governors who have come together to set up a security emergency fund to be able to equip the forest guards and their respective security outfits like the Amotekun to be able to combat terrorism and banditry. At this point, let's see if we can reconnect with Comrade Ayola, who is still with us on the program, to get his reactions. Comrade, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Now we're shifting the conversation beyond the forest to even the air components. And we're going to also look at the water. So without further ado, across all border and entry points in the country, be it via air, land, or water, how equipped do you see Nigeria being to fight this insurgency that is infiltrating from the crisis in the Sahel?
That's what I was about to talk about. The issue of the forest guards is taking the front burner. Don't forget, the forest guards are just a support group to curbing terrorism and all that goes with insecurity in our forest. And they are not to replace police or the military or the Air Force, the Army, and so on. So I think we have dwelt more on forest guards. We should also remind the military that it is not as if we are giving up on them. They must be up in their duties. The Air Force and the Navy, who are in charge of the waters, the Air Force are in charge of everywhere because they work from the air side. And then people who are in charge of the securities within, like the DSS and the police, they should also be up in their work. I also want to say that the forest guards, what happened to their training? How was their training done? How was it carried out? How long does it take? And what kind of training? Because in the end, those in the forest, the security guards in the forest, they may decide to aim only at the, how do you call it, the animals in the forest, the antelopes and so on, so that they will not be carried away by their duty, by all of these things, and forgetting their duties, the reason why they were employed in the first instance. We are beginning to see some of those things happening in some of our forests already, because I heard the president mentioning about antelopes and so on. So I'm also thinking that they should always be trained and retrained.
To prioritize hunting as against their given mandates. Are you indirectly saying they will prioritize hunting?
Exactly. They should not prioritize hunting as against, securing the forests, which is the main reason why they are employed. Hunting is not part of their work at all, except where the animals in the forest is attacking them. I think that is the only way.
Comrade Shegun, I believe this is on a lighter note, but of course, the military-style regimental training that the forest guards have received will go a long way in ensuring that they carry out their duties diligently in the forest. But you haven't reacted to the international airline bodies urging countries around the world to bear the cost of national security rather than, impounding it on travelers and commuters who travel or crisscross from one country to another. Let's just get your reaction, also in line with ensuring that all hands are on deck and all governments of different countries place their hands on deck to ensure that we collectively eradicate violent extremism in around the globe, particularly in Africa.
Yeah, the issue of infiltration movement from other countries to Nigeria is also a very big issue, where the military, working in conjunction with the immigration officials, must be up in their duties to ensuring that this never happen again. Like, for example, in Orire local government and behind the local government down there, you can access other countries through there. From Isenyi, you can access other countries there. And so what happened to the movement? Are the officials of the government, the immigration, the military has gone to sleep, or they are up in their duty? Of course, if they are up in their work, they should be able to stop the infiltration. There are people who speak other languages across the board. There are people from other countries that speak Nigerian language like Yoruba, where we have Oyo State having boundary with other countries, you can be sure that people speak other language, and if they come into this country without being asked, without being questioned, and something must be done about it. If they come to commit crime, they go back freely and come again, and nothing happened. They will continue to come. There should be arrest. There should be questioning, and of course, this should go all around the borders where we are having borders with other countries. And if this is reduced, yes, we agree that a lot has happened. Trainings are ongoing. We are still talking about state police. We are still talking about equipping the army, the air force, the military to fight all of this. But we must realize that these neighboring countries, people are moving in and moving out. And government should spend quality, time to addressing that issue, because that issue is a big problem. About some years back, we heard about people coming from Cameroon through Boronu, through Adamawa. They come in, they will do their jobs and go back freely until the government of Cameroon, the government of Niger begin to assist our military, and then they had a very wonderful achievement following the insecurity. At that time, it was in the countries who are having boundaries with us to curb this movement. Even Nigerians, their country, if they are seen to have committed crime and then they run to other countries for safe haven, I think the government of the two countries who are sharing borders must also come together with their military effort to also curb this, not leaving the whole work for immigration. Immigration should also have a kind of joint task force where they will also have the military, the hunters, the forest guards, the police, having to work together in conjunction to fight this border crisscrossing, of people who come to commit crime in our country. I think with that, we will have a secured borders all around our country.
Let's also talk about the immigration aspect that you had mentioned. Where's the place of the Nigerian Immigration Service and NIMC in ensuring that every single individual that crosses over into Nigeria is well documented, and if they are not Nigerian, the purpose of their visit is also well articulated and well documented. If they are overstaying their visa, duration, either the Immigration Service or NIMC should be able to alert relevant agencies to move swiftly and take necessary actions. I just want to get your reaction as to how this collaboration between these two government agencies can go a long way in ensuring that our borders, especially regarding insecurity, are well protected, and we don't leave our borders porous, or we don't leave individuals who are non-state actors or bad eggs infiltrate the country.
Yeah, it's about the government policy. It's about government initiating a policy in order to secure its citizenry. For example, if the immigration, for example, are not armed to carry out all of this, the people who are coming in and out, who come to commit this crime, they are well armed. That was why I said the agencies should collaborate together, like the military or the police force, collaborating together. Whilst the immigration is doing the documentation of legitimate, citizens who are crisscrossing, those who are, who are committing crime, who are seen to commit crime, they should do a kind of, synergy to see that those who commit crime are dealt with militarily. Military action should be carried out on them. And then just a few days ago, we were discussing about some other nationals from other countries who come into Nigeria without any documentation are being arrested. Immigration is holding them somewhere, and Some of them, because of the deportation camp in Nigeria, it's not enough. They have to be taken to Kuje prison for one reason or the other. So I think they have shifted only their job to within the urban area. They should also ensure that more is done on this border area, having to collaborate with other agencies like the military to go to the borders. You know, when you send the military, the officials of immigration to go to the border to checkmate the movement of the people. People always think it is punishment. Of course, that is the main reason you are being employed, the main reason why you have to be there and you agree to serve. So I encourage all the officials of these agencies to do the needful. Let the government call them to order, bring them together, probably form a committee who are charged with the responsibilities of ensuring that our borders mainly are secured. And where there is need to collaborate with the government of other countries, the federal government through the president and through the foreign affairs should have a negotiation with other countries so that there will be collaboration securing our borders. I think that's the way to go.
All right, thank you for your submission, Comrade Ayola. Let's move the conversation to another subject as we discuss Nigeria's fuel subsidy savings. Well, since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's inauguration on the 29th of May 2023, the debates on Nigeria's saved sums following the removal of subsidies have been largely contentious. These discussions revisited the public space yesterday following comments made by the Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Finance, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who was speaking at the 7th Africa Emerging Markets Forum in Abuja as hosted by the CBN. Whilst Mr. Taiwo maintains that the government is putting the subsidy removal funds to use in the payments of the newly agreed 70,000 naira minimum wage, servicing debt, and funding the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, the Nigerian Labour Congress begs to disagree. They're saying that this is being economical with the truth and lacks evidence backing the use, as said by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Let's get your thoughts on this debate. Do you see reasons with Mr. Oyedele that these monies are used for the aforementioned purposes, or do you think that the Nigerian Labour Congress has valid points to question our growing debt burden and the use
Was inaugurated on the 29th of May. During his speech, he said, the days of fuel subsidies are over. Good enough. Some Nigerians are not happy with that. Filling stations change their rate, their fuel prices, and they made a lot of money because they bought at the old price. They are now selling at, after the comment, they made a lot of money. Now, having said that anyway, there was a reason why you removed the subsidy. There was a reason. And then you analyze where the savings will go. A, B, C, and Z. All of that were analyzed. And those are checking. They are following your policies. What you have agreed to do with the subsidy savings, you know. Now, if the government comes out to the Minister of Finance daily that the subsidies are being used to service debt, was it part of the negotiation? Was it part of the reasons why you remove the subsidy? Who does that help? The borrowings, where does it go? Did you borrow for politics? Because that is what most Nigerians are talking about. As if you borrowed to finance your politics. Nigerians are asking this question. And now you are saying you are using the subsidy savings for servicing debts. I mean, I didn't see that in the reform. the New Hope Renewal, saying the subsidy removal and its savings will go on debt servicing. Now, number two, the salaries that you are talking about, 70,000 naira minimum wage. Well, it's a good one, but was a subsidy going to supposedly be used for this? Don't forget, subsidy removal is just under the policy of Tinubu, you know. But before him, were we borrowing to pay salaries? Were we borrowing as much as we are borrowing now? Was our debt as high as it is now? So these are the questions Nigerians are asking. And the question now is, Mr. President, after you have removed subsidies, let me tell you, the subsidies at the time it was not removed.
While this might be true, that Nigerians from bottom up and from top down were benefiting immensely from the fuel subsidy due to the fact that a lot of businesses and whatnot relied heavily on petroleum products, which were subsidized by the federal government. It's also important to note the corruption that the fuel subsidy regime came with, especially during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari and even subsequent previous administrations, I beg your pardon, that have the oil cabal that were named as the main reason why subsidy never went away. Yes, Nigerians were benefiting from it, but there was a small cluster of people who were enriching themselves largely and illegally at that, via this subsidy payments.
What some of us were talking about at that time was, why don't you shift your policy to dealing with the cabal, the cartel, the people who are responsible for not letting the fuel subsidy work effectively? People who enrich themselves from subsidy, who never imported yet sent their bills to the NNPC and they got paid. What did you do? You are supposed to focus on the corruption that went with it. Instead, you say to Nigerians, the days of subsidies are over. I mean, instead of dealing with the main problem, you are now coming to deal with the poor woman who can now not be able to afford kerosene. So fuel, now we are buying 1,500 per liter. And now look at the price. Between 127 naira to 1,500 naira, the difference is what you are removing from everyone's pocket, and we are calling it subsidy. Now, what you told us about what you are doing with the subsidy savings is no longer what you are now doing. Because if you are telling us that you are using it to service debt, it means it was never in the reform. It was never in the agreement, in what you were able to use to convince Nigerians. Because you told
From your perspective, Comrade Shegun Ayola, what would you advise? What would be your usage of fuel subsidy savings by the federal government? The Minister of Finance has said that the savings were used to service increased workers' salaries debt repayment, and certain other major infrastructural projects in the country. But the Labour Congress is saying that the federal government is economical with the truth. While this might be true, I just want to have your own submissions regarding what the government should have done better with these savings and going forward, what it should do with the monies.
My submission is simple. Let's go back to start paying subsidies and deal decisively with the corruption that goes with it. At that point, we'll get it right. Dealing with the corruption that goes with fuel subsidy, where you have to arrest, detain, take to court, pass judgment, imprison them, serving as a deterrence to curbing corruption in fuel subsidy. So that we'll go back to where we'll be buying fuel at 127 naira per liter. I know that oil price is a global trend, but if the federal government begins to pay subsidy and pays successfully and accurately with minimal corruption, because you cannot remove everything, I think we will go on way. Look at our transportation.
Now, Comrade Ayola, before we take a look at the high cost in transports, permit me to ask, because the opacity in our public finance spending is some of the reasons why there is a deficit in public trust. Some Nigerians, much like yourself, are saying we should have a U-turn and revert to subsidy payments. Nonetheless, others insist that subsidy is only gone on assumption that the NNPCL still expends certain sums of money in the guise of subsidy. Looking at the latest NNPCL's financial statements, you'd find 7.1 trillion naira under the subhead Energy Security Expenses. I don't know if you've stumbled on this report. Would you like to lend your voice as against calling for the return to subsidy payments to finding out what indeed is the energy security expenses and its intent?
It's very simple. That's exactly what I'm saying. If you are paying hidden charges, securing the fuel, what is it for? We need the analysis of what that money is meant for. We need it. In a way, like you said, the federal government is still paying subsidy. So why are we still suffering? Why are the people at the rural area not having access to kerosene? Why are we buying fuel at the rate of 1,500 naira per liter? If you are paying for subsidy from behind, from the back doors. So let's simplify it by saying, oh, let's put the shame, let's put the ego back away, and let's see how we'll convince Nigerians that we have started paying subsidy for now, owing to the fact that our people are suffering. If you are paying subsidies, where is the money going to? Who is importing? What happened to Dangote refineries? Why are we still paying subsidy with that kind of large chunk of money going out of our coffers? So I think part of the money was used for this subsidy removal is the same subsidy savings the minister refused to tell us. That is why those who are opposing this statement by the minister are saying he is being economical with the truth. Federal government is still paying fuel subsidy. So why are we still paying that much? Let them be true to us, true to Nigerians. Let them come out and tell us what they are doing with the fuel subsidy. Let them go back and begin to pay. Let everybody know that federal government is now paying. So that when I go to the filling station, I should be able to say, I want to buy so rate. And the reasons why I'm buying at this so rate is like, so you see, the days of protest are over. Nobody wants to know again. Everybody is focusing on politics. Everybody is focusing on security. Don't forget, apart from this subsidy, there is also revenue coming from our crude oil. Our revenue is coming from inland revenue services. Our revenues are coming from custom. Our revenues are coming from immigration. And that is just to mention a few. There are so many, revenue sectors. Money is coming to this country. And we should not be focusing only on subsidy savings. What happens to other, revenues that we have from other sources? So the minister
let's
should
focus. Let's focus on the state governments, Comrade Segun Ayola, while we talk about insecurity, while we talk about the subsidy removal savings and what the monies are being used for. There have been a lot of conversations surrounding whether the state governors should channel this extra FAC allocations, increased FAC allocations due to the removal of subsidy towards ensuring that they take care of the state police that is about to be created now across several states, which will further bolster our fight against insecurity. Now, while FAC allocations have increased, security votes have also skyrocketed across states in Nigeria. Is this a move in the right direction, and do you think that the state governors will utilize these funds towards this cause without necessarily having to go back crying to the federal government for extra funding to be able to make the state police function maximally?
Beautiful there, very beautiful. If the state governors are expecting the federal government to fund state police, has that come to be? Was it part of the negotiation? Couldn't the federal government initiate a new policy how state police will be funded? Has the state houses of assembly assented their signatures on this policy? Has it come to stay? We are yet to get there. When we get to the river, we will cross it. Like I said, there are so many sectors of revenue generators. Federal government is receiving from every part of sectors that revenue comes through. And so why are we talking only about subsidy savings? Subsidy savings is just a minute, I don't think it's up to what the custom is generating per month. Yes. Now, having said that, the state police, all of us are agitating for, the federal government in its magnanimity will also try as much as possible to create the revenue that will be generating for them in order to fund the state police. Because if the federal government through the Mr. President is asking states to please support this policy, it means he has plans to fund them. You don't fund what has not come to be. You don't fund what you have not established. So we shouldn't be talking about the subsidy. Part of the reasons why subsidies was removed is to ensure that we have good road, transportation, good health, our hospitals should be equipped or built in all the local government areas, and so on and so forth. Medications and so on. These are some of the reasons for subsidies. And when it started, we saw how effective it was. A lot of governors received money to purchase buses. Some of them up till now has not purchased even one. And nobody is calling them to order. Nobody is bringing them to book. So now they are shifting it to salaries, shifting it to debt servicing. So no wonder the NLC is saying that the government is economical with the truth. Let them come out and tell us. Let the days of non-payment of subsidies be over. Let's return to subsidy payment. And then all Nigerians will have confidence that everything will be fine. You go to the...
Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you very much, Comrade Shegun Ayola. That's as much as we can afford to accommodate on that discussion. We, however, thank you for always lending your thoughts to the topical issues in the news.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.
All right, let's also hear from the horse's mouth. The Finance Minister, Tayo Edele, speaking at the 7th African Emerging Markets Forum in Abuja yesterday, made his defense and justification for the use of the subsidy payments savings. Let's take a listen to him, and then we'll come back to other topics on discuss this morning. Stay with us.
Let me try and answer some of the questions Indemit posed at me. Yes. You can trust me, I wouldn't forget that. And I like the way you put it. After my appointment, I put out some statements. And one of it, or the headline if you want to summarize, is how do you transform reforms into results? And for the results we're already seeing, how do you accelerate? So the first thing I pick from your questions is how do we complement the excellent work of the monetary authorities? We're doing that. We know we can do better. And myself and my brother, the CBN governor, have been having these conversations. And for us, we're taking it even beyond just the leadership level to the teams. And we were discussing, issues around what is it that you actually want to coordinate? What do you want to collaborate on? If the central bank sees outlook for inflation to be on the upside, and the fiscal authorities think that inflation will tend downwards. Those are two assumptions, divergent, that will drive policy actions. So if we wait until those policies have been released before we harmonize or coordinate, we work at cross purposes. So we said to ourselves, we even start with the assumptions. At least when we get convinced about what is driving the assumptions, we can adopt the same assumption and then go do our work independently, ensuring that we have one purpose, one economy for one people. There's the high cost of borrowing. Thank you. So there's the high cost of borrowing in an economy where you need growth to deliver results from reforms, particularly per capita income growth. When interest rate is very high, it's difficult. But we understand why the interest rates are high, because we all need to fight inflation. That's our biggest enemy. So the question is, what can we do, given the circumstances, to still enable real sector investment that will finance our growth? So within the Ministry of Finance, we're working on a framework on how to bring down the cost of capital without introducing subsidies, because we believe we can complement the work of the monetary authorities and bring down cost of capital. There was a question about the subsidy savings. Where has it gone to? I've heard this question so many times. And guess what? It's a valid question. The combined impact of the subsidy, as well as, I like to call it subsidy on FX, right, was about 5% of GDP. So you remove both, you save money. But saving money wasn't the primary objective. It was eliminating the distortion and the corruption in the system, which is more fundamental. But the money saving is also important. See, where has the money gone to? And in a few days, you will see the detailed analysis, because we believe that we owe a duty to explain what we do to the Nigerian people. That's what transparency looks like. But in the meantime, I can give you some of the highlights. Many Nigerians will simply compare the past with the present and conclude that the reform is not working for them. Some would even say it's a bad reform. What we don't normally compare, or the question we usually don't ask, is what would have been if the reforms were not carried out? Counterfactual. Now, before the reforms, we were printing money to spend. Interest rates was about 8%. Minimum wage was 30,000 naira. If you just think about those three, those are big numbers. If you stop printing, the spending doesn't disappear. You need to finance the money you were printing before. That was part of where the savings went. Because the reforms induced higher prices, interest rates went up. So instead of paying 8% on our debt, we're paying as high as 24%. When you need to service debt, you don't debate it whether you need to pay. You can't negotiate it. You pay. and you pay on time. Minimum wage went up from 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira. That's almost double the wage bill of the government. In addition to other important spending, like the NEL Fund, where over 1.5 million students receive not only their tuition, but stipend on a monthly basis. And if you think that's not important enough, what it actually means is that about over 1 million households, the parents no longer have to save, borrow, and be stressed just to pay the tuition. Now they can deploy that resources into their small businesses and to take care of other important basic needs. So this is significant. So and you have a target of revenue of 6, you need to borrow . You know, this is one area where I tend to disagree with the narrative by the World Bank. World Bank would say that poverty has gone up despite the reforms. And I say, yeah, poverty has gone up because you cannot remove subsidy and people become richer, right? The reform itself was a reset. We were living in fiscal illusions. So we needed to stop deceiving ourselves so the country can move forward. And that reset meant that income levels in real terms will fall, and that would increase poverty. But the good news is that the numbers for 2025 in dollar terms, real per capita income growth was nearly 10%. That makes Nigeria one of the fastest countries in lifting people out of poverty. We intend to sustain that. So, poverty levels will drop. We have said to ourselves that we want to measure our growth, not just in terms of real GDP, but also in terms of shared prosperity. And we developed a framework. We'd like anyone to give us better ideas. We said we will measure the number of Nigerians who live in multidimensional poverty, because that tells us not just about income, it tells us about access to basic needs. Number 2, we will measure the increase in per capita real income growth. Number 3, we'll measure the inequality by Gini coefficient. The combined measurement of those 3 metrics will tell us whether our growth is inclusive, whether we are lifting people out of poverty, or whether this is prosperity for just a few. Our intention is to make it prosperity for all Nigerians. Unemployment rate officially is about 5%, but we say to ourselves, you need to interpret data correctly so you can make the right policy decisions. If you have unemployment rate at 5% and you have poverty at close to 70%, then it doesn't add up. It means you have a lot of working poor. So you don't just need to create jobs, you create decent jobs. What the data we have seen is telling us is that the place where we have most of our people, over 80% of Nigerians, work in agri sector, they work in retail services. The growth in those places where most of our people work is too slow, barely keeping up with population increase. So our focus now is how can you accelerate growth where you have most of your people in employment so that there can also be productivity growth as well. And the last thing, okay, so second to the last, the other question you ask is about trade and industrial policy. We recognize that without enabling trade, whether be it within Nigeria, within the ECOWAS region, within Africa, or globally, it is difficult for you to grow. So we now have a new industrial policy, and we are complementing that with how do you debottleneck, how do you remove the impediments. We are doing some interesting analysis, and I'll just give you some highlight. It's still preliminary results. We said, how about we quantify the cost of overregulation, the cost of excessive bureaucracy? You apply for a license that should take 2 weeks, and it took you 6 months. Who is putting the cost to it? Our preliminary analysis shows that the cost of overregulation, bureaucracy, policy inconsistency is more than the combined revenue that we generate from corporate income tax, personal income tax, and VAT combined. Imagine what that means for a moment. The government can solve the most pressing problems of the country without spending a dime, almost, because it doesn't cost money to remove disincentive. One thing that is better than incentives is removing disincentives, and that's what we tend to prioritize. The other one is, you ask me, that's the last one. What are the top priorities of the Ministry of Finance and the coordinating ministry of the economy? 2 things I will tell you. 1, we said we have to mobilize revenue. Revenue optimization is a priority. We actually think that if Nigeria were to be generating the right amount of revenue, even interest rates would be lower. Naira will be stronger and steady, right? So when people don't realize this, when Benjamin Franklin said in his work, 2 things are starting, debt and taxes. This was over 100 years ago. We had not realized that today, that statement is truer than it was when that statement was made. We can choose not to pay taxes and evade them, but we all pay it informally, in a disorderly manner. When government prints money to spend, that's inflation tax. They don't ask for your permission, they don't enact laws. But the 10 naira in your hand is now worth 8 naira. That's a 20% tax you just paid. Unfortunately, that disorderly manner of taxation disproportionately affects the vulnerable people more than the rich, because they don't have assets that can protect them from inflation. And when you allow that to persist, you widen inequality. When inequality persists, it becomes dangerous. It's like sitting on gunpowder to explode. They say the poor cannot sleep because the poor is hungry, but the rich can also not sleep because the poor is awake. So it's in our collective enlightened interest to not allow the vulnerable keep suffering. They have a limit. So revenue optimization is number 1. Number 2, we said growth, because we need to grow. It just makes sense. And number 3, fiscal discipline always. Revenue optimization, growth, and fiscal discipline. Within Ministry of Finance, we're developing a DNA. DNA means D for diligent execution. Whether it's policy, whether it's a mandate on spending, we will execute diligently. N is for national interest. We will place Nigeria's interests over and above our personal interests, sectional interests, regional interests. It will be Nigeria first and Nigeria always. And A is for accountability, because we want to be accountable. We're building a new portal for the Ministry of Finance where you will find data about Nigeria. We no longer want to be referencing the World Bank about Nigeria's data. The World Bank should reference. We will own our data, and the data will be credible. It will be accessible, and it will be timely. Thank you very much for the kind attention. May God bless you, and may God bless Nigeria, and may God bless Africa.
May we all rise, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the Honorable Minister of Finance and the coordinator of the economy for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Another round of applause, please.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying tuned to Morning Express. About a fortnight ago on this program, we discussed the challenges of backway migration in the Gambia. And we had on the program our diplomatic correspondent who was in the Gambia at the time to brief us on some of ECOWAS's response to the problems of irregular migration and human trafficking. This morning, the issue gets even more severe. Beyond West Africa is the issue in Spain. In July, Spain's Supreme Court gave a ruling that irregular migrants who cross into Spain cannot be returned back to their countries under the Enclave Border Declaration. However, human traffickers have exploited this legal framework in encouraging irregular migration. In the latest reports, 18 persons have died, while Spain struggles to document over 500,000 irregular migrants. Now, the recent one is the one affecting Ceuta, which is a frontier of the Moroccan enclave. Joining us on the program now is our diplomatic correspondent to speak to the Ceuta migration problem. Hello, Amo Marcus. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Well, it's good to see you, Amma, once again. Good morning.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about this topic that Vito has just given us a background to concerning my very dangerous parts through the Sahara Desert and whatnot. We also have an immigration crisis also affecting Europe. And of course, with some of the laws who take these very strenuous journeys, and also for the countries who open up their borders to immigrants who are illegally migrating to the countries. Let's just get your perspective on this.
Okay, so first we need to understand where this is taking place. This is happening in Ceuta. Now, this is the Spanish autonomous territory, and it's on the border, and it's very, very close to Morocco, and it's known with Melilla. And it's being that it is a part of the Spanish territory, that means it is a part of the EU territory as well, which means EU migration laws also affect this territory and this region. Now let's look at one of the core causes of migration, which we had discussed the last time, which was poverty, human trafficking, unemployment, and these are the issues that always affect people. And when people find that they are in situations that do not really, better their lives and their situations, there's always the need to move. Not forgetting the last time we heard about migration being a human right, and of course that is totally understood. But now in this particular case now, what happened here is that, look, like you said, economic pressures and all from people in Morocco, and we've always had the problem of migration, irregular migration, and of course Italy and a couple of other countries in the EU have been very, very outspoken about these issues. I know they've always been making laws trying to make sure that they curb this, while they also understand that it is a human right, and of course people have the freedom of movement. But it's also important because when there is this large surge of people, like it happened in 2018, when this large surge of people gets into a particular territory, now this is putting economic strain on the people that you're bringing to, the resources, because they have to cater for the people who are here, and also processing times for asylum, because most of them, I can guarantee you, would be seeking asylum in that territory. So the time for asylum processing, the resources, so this is also presenting a problem for the host countries. Now, getting back to your question now, this is happening right now. These are some of the issues that we are seeing, and it's not just something that's happening in Africa. It's also happening across the Mediterranean, and we see irregular migration. So what happened here is that we saw migrants using flotation devices and moving, and that is because they explored a part of the law, a caveat, I would say, in the law, which stated that once you are in waters, when you're on active migration and maybe you're not on a boat, they cannot, intercept you at sea and return you, because normally the EU laws at this point say you can be intercepted at sea and returned back to where you're
But when it's on a flotation device, the law doesn't apply.
The law doesn't apply. So basically, it's to save you and take you to the closest border. So which is what a lot of them were exploring, to make sure that they got to the border, and of course they get to apply for asylum. As we understand at the moment, migration camps have been overrun, and everything. So this is a development that we're looking at.
Let's also look at the different facets of the migration of, individuals into some of these European countries. Now, while, the concept or the entirety of their conduct there has also posed a very huge, crisis within places like Spain and the rest. Migrants that have now been registered to reside permanently in these countries oftentimes cause mayhem in city centers. You hear of robberies, you hear of murders and whatnot, and fingers always point to these migrants. While the countries might have caveat laws that are lenient and accommodating for migrants, how do we ensure that individuals genuinely seeking for asylum are not mixed up in the mess that illegal migrants continue to cause in some of these European countries?
Well, that's the issue here, because when it comes to migrant processing centers, of course, you're asked the reason, why do you want to be in this country? Why did you migrate? And we understand that a lot of people are they speak a lot of untruth when it comes to this because they're just trying to alleviate their problems. Now, when it comes to, the issues that are being caused by migrants, I would say it's not just migrants, because if you're looking at it worldwide, not just migrants, the amount of crime, the rates of crime which has been spiking across Europe and the US, it's not just migrants who are said to be the cause of this, but some of them you could say, okay, migrants are the ones who are, causing these issues, and most times it's pushed on the migrants. So it's not really a migrant thing that they come in, because I don't believe that anyone would move into another country specifically, to go cause problems, you get. So I think that maybe at some point it could be circumstances that could happen, say maybe a misunderstanding or a particular issue,
or even profiling.
Or even profiling. Of course, we've seen those issues happen also in the US, where people are profiled based on, their gender, their race, and these issues. So I wouldn't say that migrants cause most of the problems, although it has been proven that some of the issues are being caused by migrants. So this is where, the laws of the country comes to play. And of course, countries like the EU rules and regulations, how they get to, handle these issues. It's also very important that human rights, of course, are being respected in every situation, and every issue.
Now, just before we move on, Bito, in a moment, let's talk about asylum laws in most of these European countries, and even in the US. We have seen, of course, these laws allowing for a safe haven for people who have suffered some sort of abuse or their lives are threatened in their countries, and they've been able to find their way to these countries. However, in terms of people who continue to exploit asylum laws, what do you think EU countries are doing to ensure that the laws surrounding asylum are kept in such a way that exploitation levels are, kept at their barest minimum?
Okay, so the EU had proposed new migration rules, and one of them was mandatory border screenings. A second was faster asylum processing time, and we also had strong return system, which I know that Italy was one of the main champions of the return system, to ensure that people, when you're brought to the border, you're returned back to your country, so you don't become a burden, for the host country. Also, there is a shared responsibility among EU states. This means that countries facing heavy migration pressures, such as Spain, Italy, and Greece, they also receive more support from other EU member states, and this support may come through relocation of asylum seekers to other countries and regions, operational assistance or financial contributions. Also, there is the expanded Eurodac database. The EU biometric database has been strengthened, and it's to improve identification and tracking of migrants moving across member states. So you see, you could be a migrant, an asylum seeker, basically a migrant in Italy or Spain, and it could be moved to other enclaves. So this system is just there to ensure that you track it. Also, there is a crisis mechanism that has been put in place by the EU, and it is an emergency provision, and it's supposed to allow the EU activate exceptional procedures for people where sudden migration surges occur, or in situations where migration is a political tool by a third party.
All right, whilst you were speaking there, we saw some images greeting the screen concerning the migration problems as encountered by Spain. In the interim, Spain has deployed its military to be able to tackle some of these issues along Ceuta, which is the enclave from Morocco. But whilst this is the case, the local border guards had complained that you see 5 kilometers columns of persons rushing the Tarajal waters. And that brings me back to Arma. It's the fear this has created. Local shop owners around these areas have had to shut shop, fearing that they might be looted by this rush of persons coming into Spain. There are more efforts on ground beyond the EU protocols to ensure that local businesses are not overrun owing to migration.
I wouldn't blame the people who are shutting down shops, because this is a really sudden, effort. Except in situations where the countries announce that, okay, now our migration rules and asylum rules are allowing for migrants to come in, where the people are now prepared for a surge of, more influx of people coming in. But where you just see people coming into the territory, no explanation, and most of them may not be speaking the same language. So I wouldn't blame the people who are shutting down shops out of fear. But the rule, from what we understand from the EU and, of course, the Spanish government, is that at the moment they are overrun. The asylum centers are being overrun. There are people sleeping on the streets. They're looking for ways that they can, surmount these people. So it's and it's an emergency, and these countries are rushing to make sure that these people are taken care of adequately in terms of the law. Now, looking at the country where they are coming from, Morocco, it has been a key partner in EU migration management, because this is a key transit point for people who are trying to leave the African continent legally and illegally. Remember a couple of, I think last month or 2 months ago, there was a similar case in Libya, where Libya went to the UNHCR office, and then they were complaining that the UNHCR is encouraging migrants to come into the country, and of course the people came out and said they didn't want that, and they were asking the UNHCR office to leave. Of course, we're still seeing developments happen on that side, but this is the current issues that we're seeing across migration. These are the trends that we're seeing, that at the end of the day, when the government is overrun and they do not have the resources, adequate resources, to ensure they take care of these people, the citizens on their own part take matters into their hands, and then they revolt. We're looking at the issue happening in Libya. Hopefully, it would not happen in Ceuta or in the Spanish enclave. We saw it happen in South Africa, of course, bringing it back to African continent. We've seen it happen. So these are, patterns that keep on repeating across, the whole region. And coming back to Morocco, Rabat receives EU support, and it cooperates with Spain on border security and migrant control. So that relationship between the two countries, it's also strategic. I'm also expecting to see where the EU reaches out back to Morocco to ask that it takes back some of these people who have crossed into the border illegally.
Now talking about the political and international fallouts is also interesting to add, because like you've brought in Africa, most responses now is on a diplomatic relationship between Morocco and Spain. We saw the Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez and the Interior Minister Fernandez Grande also make efforts to visit these areas like we've seen. But the shocking response is and the freedom of migration?
Yes, it definitely will threaten. One of the key proponents of that rule is Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and she has been very, very vocal and very critical about the ills of migration, of course, as well as illegal migration. It's important to note that these countries are not against migration as a thing. You're free to move, from place to place, but when you have the proper documentation and you go through the regular routes, the challenge here is when there is irregular migration, there is illegal migration, and people just move from place to place. So when we're looking at government response here, it's more like government owes the responsibility to its people to protect and ensure that the people are safe, guarded, and protected and secure in their regions. So when there is this particular surge, we're expecting to see, these things come up. But I don't think that the passage of the bill to move the Schengen, to scrap the Schengen visa is really going to, come aboard, because there have been some advantages to that. We've seen people who have actually migrated legally. So even though Italy is one of the frontliners who is pushing for this, I think it will have some pushback, especially when it comes to the EU Parliament passing the legislation. And, also, these people didn't come in through the Schengen visa. This is illegal migration. Those are two very different issues that we're discussing here. So I don't see, that having an easy time in the EU Parliament being passed into law and, that happening.
Now, I like that Bito had mentioned something around security. Let's take West Africa, for instance, that has had its fair share of terrorism and terrorist attacks in the last couple of years. Now, most people who tend to migrate illegally to some of these countries in Europe and, of course, via the Mediterranean Sea often come from the western part of Africa, amongst your other sides of the world. However, if the EU countries continue to accommodate these illegal immigrants who infiltrate the country, what is the risk of having perhaps individuals who have some sort of terrorist, tendencies, going into these countries and causing mayhem, or perhaps carrying out a major terrorist attack in the countries?
The tendency is pretty high. Yeah. These things we've seen, like we've said, we've seen happen across the United States. We've seen it happen across EU countries. But like the EU had proposed the new migration rules, there is supposed to be more time and more ardent screening and a higher border patrol system. So,
what is the duration for the screening typically?
Well, it should take between 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the surge of people and, of course, the systems that they have in place to ensure that these people pass through quickly. But when there is this, you're supposed to screen the people and understand. But one of the challenges that you would have is, incomplete documentation, where people do not even have IDs on themselves. So, okay, this is who I am. So you can at least do a quick search to understand who exactly this person is. So one of the challenges that these border, officials face is that most people coming in, they do not even have documentations to themselves.
So you can tell whether or not they have some sort of terrorist affiliation.
Exactly. So you just have to take them at face value. And, that's where profiling comes in. That is where a lot of training to ensure that they can read people, on first glance. But most times we've seen that doesn't really work because the profiling goes wrong, and then people are now, called up for cases or profiled on cases that they would never actually do.
Now, in terms of human trafficking, which is a very major problem all around the world, and also happens a lot when some of these illegal on how smuggling of drugs, human trafficking, especially when people are trafficked for sex, to become sex workers in some of these countries and whatnot. How is this being handled, both by countries in Africa and also countries at the receiving end, on the other side of the world?
I think it's very important for us to note how this begins. So when people find themselves in a situation where there's hunger, there is poverty, there is unemployment, and they don't have their basic needs being sorted. And you hear of, say, a distant land where your basic needs are sorted, you have a job, you have security, and unfortunately you don't have the money to make that travel legally. And then you hear of the cheaper routes where you can access. This is the caveat. This is usually, the storyline across the stories and developments that we have covered, and the testimonies from victims that we have heard. It's when they don't have enough money to do this legally, that's when they explore the illegal routes. And when they explore the legal route, this is where they fall into the hands of human smugglers, drug peddlers, which is where, there's always the situation of, oh, come help us do this and we can ensure your travel to Europe. But most of them do not really understand exactly what they're going into. Of course, not excluding their responsibility in this, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. So when these people get into these systems, and then, of course, they have to go across borders illegally, most of them are promised jobs. Let's actually are deceived into thinking that this is a legitimate migration route. So most of them are fraudulently promised jobs, promised opportunities outside, but when they get there, they realize that this is not what we're seeing, what they had begun for. And now most of them are in too deep to begin to walk away. And one of the things you understand usually happens is your passport is taken away from you. Your passport is the one documentation. It's very important when you are in a foreign country.
So at the end of the day, there's absolutely no other choice.
There's no other choice
than to adhere to whatever the person in charge of trafficking them asks them to do.
Exactly. Okay. So this also comes into human trafficking as well, organ trafficking, because some of them are trafficked for their organs, and they don't have any idea about this, and they're paid really low sums and really low fees. So these are some of the issues that we're seeing happen, and of course our reportage, we've seen it happen in West Africa. So coming to government responsibility, government on its part has been trying, but I do believe that when these key issues are being tackled, if I have a good job in Nigeria and I'm okay, I'm in a safe and secure environment, and my future is secured, I really would not see any need aside education or other business adventures, But at that point, you want to migrate legally. But when you now have to do it illegally, that is where the challenge comes in. So governments, on their part, they have been working. They have put in some rules, like we've seen the bilateral agreements between Spain and Morocco. Yeah. We've also seen that happen as well across regions. We've also seen continental bodies come together to try to address this challenge. But I think it goes down to basic human needs, which are not taken care of. And once these are taken care of by the government, I don't think people would find any need to go through this route.
All right. Thank you so much, Amma Marcus, for giving us this very in-depth analysis on the migration crisis affecting the EU countries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, to draw the conversation to a close, but with a reminder that the Moroccan authorities, particularly the Moroccan Association of Human Rights, has complained about issues of rights violations, citing the fact that some police officers go as far as using water cannons to deter migrants who are on flotation devices. Some who go through land routes have their vehicles burnt, with the death toll recording over 60 persons in the last the Gambia or the Soweto crisis with an impending humanitarian disaster. My name is Vito Ryan. Thank you for always choosing to start your day on ADBN television.
And I am Chijioke Okafor. Thank you so much for watching. Good morning, Nigeria.
ADBN, a part of you. Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected.